What's up guys, Aaron Productions Lighting and Sound here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my 2019 Halloween display. Yes, I know it's very late considering it's January, but I never had the time to put the video together until now since I had to work on my Christmas display right after Halloween. But it's better late than never, and it's still important to me as documentation of my past displays for the future. Starting across from the display, we have one of my new props for this year, constructed out of a jacket that my aunt gave me, an alien head made out of those bead things that have the light inside, pants, and some creepy hands from the dollar store. It is lighted by an LED par 16 on a ground stake with a red gel on it. I put the gel because it was overblown otherwise, and also other things I read in the display, so it sort of matches. Around the tree itself, we have these Show Home app lights. There's 3 of them. You can control them with your phone. On the tree itself, we have spider webs from the Dollar Tree, as well as the sign, which is also from the Dollar Tree. I just cut the stakes off the bottom and screwed it on so it looks like a boarded sign. There's also a laser up here that shines on the house. Of course, you're not going to be able to see it right now, but it has nice little gobos like a spider web and stuff like that. Also on the tree, we have my RGB wash light, 30 watts. It's just shining on this inflatable, which has a metallic finish, so it looks nice. And then there's also the spotlight down here that projects gobos, but it wasn't working that well in the house, so I decided to shine it up on here, and it looks like a little spotlight. Over here we have my skull, which isn't always sitting there. It has a motion sensor, and it has a speaker in it, which I removed. And in the back here are the 2 wires that connect to the speaker. I connect the JBL Control 23 to it, and it sounds a lot better. Here's my original controller from when I first started. It has 6 channels on it. You can't control it with a computer. It has its built-in programs. I have that controlling the alien head, as well as the par 16 that's in the ground over here, and it just does random flashing. Down on the ground over here we have my lightning projector. It just has 3 little windows with a lightning gobo on it. In my Colorado 3 right here, next to it, it's a wash light DMX, but I have it set only to red to wash the whole house since it's so bright. We also have our garage decorated. This one just has caution tape crisscrossed on it, but over here we have spider webs displayed across the whole door, as well as little skeletons and UV reactant paint posters. It has skeletons, eyeballs, and stuff like that. The white paint looks good too, but you can't see it. The black light is up there. It's a Chauvet black light. Up on the front staircase we have a set of lighted ghosts. These are just zip tied to the post of the staircase, and some caution tape crisscrossed like you've seen before, with some rope lights going up and down the stairs. Up on top of the bush up here we have my spider inflatable, which is obviously not doing too well this season. Last year the power supply went out and now the whole entire thing is dead. On the front door we have a tinsel spider web from my favorite place on earth, the Dollar Tree. And coming up the stairs from downstairs is this LED techno strobe, which is just flashing. Over here on our little flag stand we have some pumpkins in the night. We just put a different flag on this for each season. It stays out all year. Down here on this little pumpkin projection looking thing, it projects out spiders that have a moving gobo inside. So it looks like the spiders are cascading down from the ceiling, making their web, and it looks awesome. Some other things outside the display include this inflatable here, which has ghosts coming out of a pumpkin, which is very scary because of the faces on it. Ooh. And the spider fence going around it, which is of course from the dollar store. Black plastic all around the back because we want to keep the light out. There's also some eyes there, and this red LED strip lighting up the bush. Also back here is my control shack that houses my controllers and everything, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. But now we're on to the best part, which is of course the main graveyard. I used some Philips purple lights, and I had to use a soldering iron to poke out all the holes. It took a long time, and hopefully next year I'll have all of them done, but I simply ran out of time before Halloween, so the park hands had to make do. Within the graveyard itself, we also have plenty of different props, like this pin spot pointing down on this skeleton on a motor that spins around and it looks like it's lost all its limbs. It's a little overexposed in this video though. Right next to that is a gravestone that has a bunch of LED kits in it that makes it look like the spider is going down into an exploding web. and it looks pretty cool at night. Behind this gravestone there's a chain that moves around with a fan that has a little weight on it that hits it around, and there's also a USB disco ball. This is one of my proudest gravestones right here. It has UV paint all over it, and that's why it has this UV light in front. It looks very nice in real life. It's all fluorescent, and it also has water that pumps out through this PVC pipe. There's a pump down there, along with a strainer and stuff just to make sure the leaves don't get caught inside. Up here in the tree we have a bat that is flying around here. It's on a string. Of course, it's a dollar store item again. This works because when it can't go one way, it'll start going the other way, and it moves back and forth, and putting it between a single point makes it move up and down. One of the props that I built over this summer was this popcorn machine. Well, I guess it was already built, but at the top here we have a strobe light that I made out of using an LED controller, and the kettle actually has water pumping through it. It's colored black, and it looks really cool dripping through all these skulls, which are actually pretty expensive. And I used some green spray paint to put things all over it, and used some stencils to put things like die or hot and dead on it, stuff like that. Some white paint thrown all about to make it look messy. There's also a skull and some dirt with some mirrors cracked around it. And skull corn is really the name of this thing. You can see a little synchronous motor to lift it up. Another one of my favorite things within the graveyard is this misting pot. It uses an ultrasonic mister. Just has a misty air that sort of creeps out from the pot, especially if it's windy out. It looks really nice and flows out a little bit. In the tree we have a new prop for this year, which you can make for $5, $2 store baskets, $1 store rat, and a dollar store chain. It sort of looks like the rat is trying to eat his way out of his cell. In the way back of the display here we have my Tune to sign. It says tune to this FM channel because we are broadcasting on the radio at night time to synchronize the display. All of these pumpkins are on a different channel. It's on 2 crates put together with green uplighting underneath. Also, I added a fog machine under here so the fog sort of looks like it's oozing out from underneath, and since the wood is very cold, it sort of gives it a low-lying fog effect for a very short amount of time. These are all lighted by 10-watt LE lights. That's the brand LE. These ones are set to green. That one is set to purple. Sort of gives it a Halloween-y color, I guess. But it just lights it up. It's a perfect amount. Also above here I made this little sign to hopefully draw attention, but it didn't really work out, so I'm going to have to move it next year. We also, of course, have some inflatables. Here is a pumpkin spider looking thing. I got this one last year, and it looks pretty nice next to the pumpkin patch. There's also this witch warlock pumpkin. I don't know what it is, but we got it for pretty cheap at the end of the season, so I decided to throw it in there since it's kind of like a graveyard thing. Next to that is a Grim Reaper looking thing, and I would say that looks pretty good in the graveyard. And of course gravestones, which obviously belong in the graveyard. Next we are moving on to my favorite thing, since obviously this is a show, the lighting. So on each wing, I guess you could call it, we have a set of 3 slim pars on each side, so that makes it easy to do a little bit of a blinder and chase. And Intimidator Scan 110s, this one is set to an invert, so that makes it easier for me to just make the beams cross and stuff like that without having to change the programming on the other side. As you can see, we're doing a little bit of a chase here right now. There's also the LED Techno strobe that I talked about earlier. This is also DMX, but I have it just doing a strobe because I ran out of DMX cables. Now I have a lot more DMX cables than I did during the Halloween season. There's also this Chauvet Easy Laser RB. It's battery powered, but I still plug it in anyway. It's not that integral, but it does look very nice shining down. Of course you can't see it right now, but it's a red and blue laser, so that looks awesome. Next we'll be seeing what is on the 10-foot truss up in the tree. Here's one of the par cans that you've already seen before. There's 6 of them on here, and each one has its own individual cord going to it for the assigned dimmer channel on one of the dimmer packs. Here's a par 38 with a par 16 in it, and all the par cans are mounted using different clamps. I know I'm kind of ghetto, but you know, it works fine. There's also another par can here that has a little bit cut off, so it just lights up the front of the skulls in the front. Over here we have my 3 Slimpar 56 IRCIPs. These are basically the Slimpar 56 but the outdoor version, so they stay out here all the time, unlike most of the other fixtures. This is here just to wash the back wall and make it pop a little bit and do a little bit of a chase effect. This year I have more, so I'm going to do blinders with that. Here is one of my wash moving heads. These are just generic lights. I have one of them on each side. So if we go down to the other end, here is the other one. These don't do a mirrored pan tilt. They're just doing the same thing. But they are on different channels, so I can do different movements, of course. As you can see, I have them labeled for street, and the other one says house. In the middle, we have my Chauvet Intimidator Spot 110. I know it's weird to have only one moving head, but it kind of fills in with the Intimidator Scan 110s, and now this year, of course, I bought another one, so we have two. We also have my Chauvet Bob LED flame light. This is attached using a Chauvet clamp, and is simply just attached to the chain. And finally, in the tree, we have my Chauvet Scorpion Dual Laser. Moving on to audio, we're using my JBL Control 29AV-1 outdoor speaker. This is very loud and it has a lot of bass. You really don't need a sub with this speaker. I'm actually using the Invisiball as a secondary mounting point just for safety, and it also lifts it up a little bit. There's actually brackets that are attached to the truss, as you can see here, and it holds it just fine, plus nobody's walking underneath here, so I'm not concerned with anything falling. I did use some subs on Halloween just for extra oomph. We have two Control 5s and one Control 28 with the tweeter cutout. Moving on to my control shed, which is that little doghouse that you saw earlier. This houses all the power and everything. There's two circuits going into here, which go to my Lightorama controller. As you can see, 16 channels, the commercial version. Not that that really matters. It was just one that I got the good deal on. Inside, of course, we have Ethernet running to here through a Cat6 cable. And our 16 outputs go to the various graves and other stuff. And we have my Elation DP415 and a Chauvet DMX4, which is now dead. These are 4-channel dimmer packs. These run all of the PAR cans. Over here we have a different type of dimmer. This one has 4 channels as well, but it's used to dim LED strips or anything that's 12 volts for that matter. That's why I use it for the Skull 1, Skull 2, which are LED strips inside of skulls, and strobe lights that you'll see right here. That are just basically 2 work lights that I put LED strips in and used an LED controller to make them strobe really fast. Here are the 2 power strips. These are each on a different circuit. One goes to each leg of the Lightorama controller and things like that. And here is my chaser that only operates the one motor on one of the rats, so that moves sporadically. But I think I disconnected this in the end though. Next up is fog machines. We use a lot of these. This one is just a generic ground fogger. We didn't put any ice in it because it works fine, but here's a perforated pipe that we used. It distributes the fog nicely. Here is the tote, which I use to cover up the fog machine that goes here usually. That shoots through this pipe and goes to the fogging skulls in the front, which I talked about before with that PAR can shooting onto it. And there you can see them. Very nice going onto the ground. It gives low-lying fog as well. I also have a Chauvet Hurricane 1302 fog machine. This basically is used to fill up the whole entire place with smoke so you can see the beams, since a hazer isn't really appropriate. We also have 2 Chauvet Hurricane 700s. One of them here is to just shoot at the people and scare them using a wireless remote, and the other one we already saw. The last thing to discuss here is my command center. I guess you could say that's what it is. We have 2 Dell monitors, one to look at the sequence and the other one I use to look at the visualizer while I'm programming. This is all run in my Core 2 Duo Dell Optiplex 960 small form factor computer. We also have a Chauvet Obey 70 up here just to program the lights while I'm not using the software. Over here we have my microphone, which is actually on a push-to-talk switch, or button rather. It's actually a finger-guarded button. So if I press it down, then it would send the signal into the amplifier that the PTT is active, which is my Crown 160MA. Has 4 channels on it that are mixable, RCA inputs and everything, in a PTT channel. Then up here we have my Lightorama IDMX 1000. This converts the Lightorama protocol into a DMX protocol, so I can use all my native DMX 512 devices, such as the Intimidators and other things like that. To listen in here, I actually use my JBL Control 2P powered monitor speakers. I have one on each side. All of my cables run outside, through conduit, and underneath the ground to my display. And guys, that is going to conclude this video on my Halloween display for 2019. Can't wait to get started on 2020. I hope somebody learned something, and if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them down in the comments.